What's up, wrestling fans? We are, this is State of the WWE, and it is State of the WWE episode 106. I got it right. Last time there was a State of the WWE was 3 months ago. Before that, it was 8 months before that. So, you know, obviously done a lot less of these, but I feel like because of Out of Nowhere has kind of taken the spot of State of the WWE, but every once in a while there's a good group of news over a course of a few days, and I don't do the news videos, so I didn't do a video on Thursday, Sunday, being busy, and I think even Friday I may have not done a video, so this is sort of that day to catch up on all that stuff, so that's where I will probably fit these State of the WWEs in.
Plus, there also hasn't been really like a ton of massively important news, tidbits out in quite a while. If there is, it coincides with Out of Nowhere, really, like you said. So
you're right.
No reason to report it twice.
And I want to, the first thing that I saw recently was about a Hell in the Cell match, or 2 Hell in the Cell matches.
Oh, really?
That are coming. I don't know if you've seen this.
No, I haven't seen this yet.
Apparently there's a couple Hell in the Cell matches or something like that. Let me see. Kevin Owens versus Roman Reigns.
Really? That'll be good. Just with
I,
Owens in it, he always delivers. We've seen him brutalize himself against Shane McMahon in the Hell in a Cell.
Yeah, this is from Ringside News recently. We'll get into like the psychology of State of the WWE. A lot of time we'll kind of talk about where the company is, how we feel WWE is. I think it's not good in many ways. Financially, it's great.
They're rolling in the dough.
It's kind of like a baseball team. It's kind of like fan happiness versus like, are they making money? I think that's the best comparison. And people don't understand because it's like, well, Joe, the company's doing great financially, so what are you talking about? But it's really about fan happiness versus that. Like if you go to like
you want people to want to watch the product, not because when they want to watch, then they'll pay for more. You figure it's supply and demand. You create the demand, you get it's just...
The Red Sox could be on a winning streak, and the company and Red Sox owners could be making a ton of money, but maybe the Red Sox tickets are up, or maybe the Red Sox are on a losing streak and the fans are really mad and the ticket prices are high, and the owners are doing great. They're getting like TV deals, commercials, they're making a ton of money off everything, but the fans are upset and bitter. And we saw that as Red Sox fans, if you know what I'm talking about, back in 2013. And every sports team sees this stuff. So, Toronto Maple Leafs fans might be upset because they just can't get to a Stanley Cup. And for years, 13 years or something, they missed the playoffs. Yet their tickets are the highest priced in the NHL.
Yeah, when I heard that stat, I mean, they're incredibly overpriced, I guess, too.
Or at least they were. I think things might have changed recently, but whatever. So you could see people being mad. So 2 major matches revealed for Hell in a Cell, according to, I guess, ringsidenews.com. ABC, I don't know if this is it. ABC KSAT 12 announced today that Roman Reigns will face Kevin Owens, and AJ Styles will defend the WWE Championship title against Samoa Joe at the September 16th event of Hell in the Cell.
Wow. So that means, AJ will retain until then. And it doesn't mention anything about Brock being there, obviously, because it's not a main 4 pay-per-view.
Right.
So that in itself is, saying that SummerSlam, Brock will retain as well. That's for them to announce that's spoilerific in its own right. And WWE has a habit of doing this lately where they spoil things on themselves.
Yeah. Now, there was something we were supposed to measure, and I can't remember what it was. And we should probably write this one down and find out, because it'd be interesting to know the percentage, because I know they have changed things before, and things could change. Cards subject to change, always.
Yeah, it's always a possibility.
But I would be interested to know. We should start tracking this as a stat, and I'd be interested if there's other websites or wrestling news places that would actually cover this as a stat. How many times, when advertised, like major main events advertised ahead of time, what is the percentage that those events actually end up taking place?
Where they actually come to fruition and happen. That is a good thing to note, because there's been many times, things have been initially advertised for ticket sales and have gone out the window.
We should write that one down. Try to remember that. Yeah, I'm going to write it down,
I'm going to add to my notepad for Out of Nowhere on here.
We'll all try to remember episode 106 of State of the WWE. that it said that would those matches would happen, which leads us to believe that Brock is the champion. But maybe not. Maybe what if Roman was the champion at that time, facing
he
Kevin
could
Owens?
be. You know, if he does actually face Brock at SummerSlam, which was heavily rumored at one point. You know, what if he beats Brock Lesnar, and that's why he's facing Kevin Owens?
Yep, that could be it. But
I mean, that in itself kind of leads into what I was, reading beforehand. There's a lot of things going on where Paul Heyman put out a very long statement on his Facebook that was then retweeted. And it went on and on to say that, basically he called out everybody in the company, saying that no one's worthy to face Brock Lesnar.
Mm-hmm.
He said that, this is not the UFC. This is not anything else. No matter where Brock is, he's the conqueror. His usual long-winded speech.
Yeah.
And then Roman Reigns replied with his usual robotic, plain retort saying, this is my yard. It's not an octagon. It's the squared circle. My yard. I own this. I'm the big dog. And then Bobby Lashley got into it as well, saying that I've never ducked a fight. You tell me when and where, and I'll be there. So his usual lacking charisma, smiling response as well. But the point is, from what I've been hearing, is that a lot of people are thinking that we'll see Bobby Lashley be be the next opponent for Lesnar at SummerSlam. Cage Side Seats is saying that it's speculated heavily that Bobby Lashley is next in line for a shot at the Universal Championship, going by Paul Heyman's latest promo on social media.
No,
so Bobby Lashley, since he returned, hasn't had a main feud, and it has not been stated as of now when the next Universal match will take place. Well, it has. We know it's going to be SummerSlam. So
we thought that this might happen, that he would face Lesnar, but we thought he would be built like he would come in like a badass, and that hasn't happened. So now, they are so stupid, they are so messed up at WWE. They got to the same result that we basically predicted. But they got there in means that, in spite of themselves, it makes no sense. You think this guy's going to come in, they're going to just show everybody what a badass he is, and then he is somewhat on the level of Lesnar, in a B, the B version of Lesnar, but can he be more than that? But instead what we got was Bobby Lashley showing up, okay, and then he gets a D-level performance, and now he gets put to the A-level? It just
like you said, it's been
off.
A hindrance to themselves, and he's shown no character whatsoever. And then on top of it, the feud that he had with Sami Zayn hurt him to the point where he was
embarrassed
booed endlessly. The Money in the Bank Chicago crowd was tearing him apart, and not just because he was a face. I mean, they wanted Sami Zayn to win, so badly.
Did they? Because I felt like they did start cheering for him at the end with the suplexes and stuff, a little bit. But
I think it was just for the move itself, and not so much for him.
I agree. I think they were just trying to grab on to anything he was doing, or anything was going on. But no, I just think that over the grind to get to that match killed him. At that point, I mean, maybe he could be brought back, but with his lackluster personality, I mean, honestly, Brock Lesnar will walk all over him, because Brock Lesnar's promo, Brock Lesnar's stare and smile versus Bobby Lashley's. Bobby Lashley's smile is like, heh, and Lesnar's is like, oh my God, he's going to destroy you. There is no way I could justify or ever think that at this point that Lesnar could be beaten by Bobby Lashley. I know that there's some people out there that don't like Daniel Bryan beating Brock Lesnar because they think it's doesn't seem realistic. I think Daniel Bryan beating Brock Lesnar is more realistic than Bobby Lashley beating him. So
yeah, especially at this point. I agree
right
with
now
you
by far.
There. And we know that, obviously, Extreme Rules, we're going to go ahead and we're going to see Roman Reigns versus Bobby Lashley versus 3 other opponents, I believe it is total. I believe it's 5. And, we're going to have the number 1 contender be determined. And all of this news started because WWE.com posted an article. This is what Paul Heyman was complaining about.
Yeah.
And their article had a poll in it where they wanted the readers and fans to choose who they think the number 1 contender for the match should be. And obviously, no drum roll needed, Seth Rollins came out on top, 39%. And then it was Finn Balor at 23%. Drew McIntyre had 16%. And it went all the way down. Dolph Ziggler, Jinder Mahal, Bobby Roode, Constable Baron Corbin, and you don't even have, Bobby Lashley on the radar for this. So, I mean, that should speak volumes in its own right. Everybody wants to see Seth face him, which I think would explain why Seth, lost the title, last week to Dolph Ziggler. If it ends up leading where he would face, I would love to see him face Brock Lesnar. Then it makes sense as to why he suddenly and randomly dropped the belt.
But I'll tell you what, if Bobby Lashley is facing Brock Lesnar at SummerSlam, then again, that also goes into that, all the pieces fit together here, because then Brock Lesnar clearly defeats Bobby Lashley. He's still the champion, and then you see the Hell in the Cell pay-per-view set up the way it is.
Yeah.
And that really tells us, I think, everybody, that, man, Brock Lesnar is probably going to be champion at least either until the Royal Rumble or at WrestleMania. And
I foresee it being WrestleMania,
right,
honestly, at this point. And
that really blows my mind and blows me away, because we really thought that he might drop it at SummerSlam. And there goes the whole cash-in thing. The whole idea of, Braun cashing in at SummerSlam on maybe Roman or Brock. Maybe they save that for WrestleMania. They could do another WrestleMania cash-in like they did with Seth, maybe. But I mean, would you really want to see, for the third time, Roman Reigns versus Brock Lesnar, and this time Braun Strowman saves the day, or even worse, or even better in a weird way, Brock Lesnar versus Roman again at WrestleMania after what they did last year, after what the fans did last year, and Braun cashes in like the night after on Raw? Like, I don't know. I can't even believe that you could justify Braun and Roman ever again now.
No. The fans hijacked the show multiple times, especially, even at the Saudi show somewhat. It didn't go over the way they thought it would. Unfortunately,
fans have never hijacked WrestleMania, right? I mean, okay, WrestleMania 20, right? That was another Brock Lesnar match.
Yeah.
Was that it? I mean, can we think of any other times the fans hijacked a match at WrestleMania?
They did it for both the Roman matches, like you said. The Roman and Taker a little bit, not as much, but
I barely remember what they did in that. But I mean, I'll never forget what they did last year with the beach balls and the cheering and people leaving. Unprecedented and unparalleled with how everyone wanted to beat the traffic, and they did not care. Yeah, can't believe. I mean, other than I can only think of Goldberg versus Brock at WrestleMania 20. When the fans were kind of...
Yeah, when, even Austin couldn't help that.
Right. And it wasn't... And that was made a big deal out of, but it still wasn't as bad as last year at all, because last year was... No. It's a negativity. It's a almost just we're having a... It's almost like when Jimmy Buffett has a concert, like before you go in and everybody's partying, there's the barbecue out in the parking lot, there's the tailgate. It's almost like that. It became a tailgate party as opposed to fans watching a wrestling event.
Yeah, that's a great analysis.
It's like we're at WrestleMania.
It really was,
let's
because
party.
People just went nuts.
And it's and anybody that criticizes the fans, I don't blame the fans at all. Who could, if you don't interest the fans, that's your fault. That's their fault. That's WWE's fault. That is your fault.
And especially, I mean, they saw the reception that he got the year before, and 2 years prior, I should say. They knew what was to be expected, and they still went through with it. And that's what troubles me about Vince at times. That's why you hear so many people say, "Oh, I can't wait till he's not involved in the company, or he's gone," and things of that sentiment. And I get it at sometimes, because he is so stubborn, and when he has an idea, he sticks with it come hell or high water.
Yeah. Which works sometimes, and
sometimes it does. But we were discussing this, previously on Raw Reviews and on Out of Nowhere, where we said, it's to their detriment often, where they do something, especially with the comedy angles, or even just trying to develop a character slightly, where if it doesn't work, they'll either scrap it entirely and not give it another chance, or they'll repeat it 200 times until they, force you to enjoy it, and it just doesn't connect.
Yeah, the repetition is the weirdest thing. It's like, keep doing it, keep doing it, keep doing it. And it's like, no, stop doing that. And I don't know what the numbers are with Roman, but it just blows my mind. I don't quite get it. And I guess Braun is sort of there. To me, it feels like not only is this, I wonder how much of this is a reward for Braun, to have this briefcase, as much as it's a get out of jail free card for WWE. because
if they can kind of retcon things if it really goes south.
Yeah, like if they like say they do WrestleMania again like they did Brock and Roman, which is insane, but like say they do it, which it feels like it really feels like they're leading to that again. I mean, like what else are they gonna do? And
it certainly has that, you know, smell in the air.
like they could try to tell another story with the two of them. Last year they tried to tell the story of Brock Lesnar's a lazy part-timer and he gets special treatment. But the problem is that's what the fans feel about Roman. So that didn't work. So that made the fans even more mad. It's like they are idiots. Like they really are morons.
Yeah. And they even proved themselves right by saying, you know, oh, Roman gets special treatment and so does Brock. So you had like two spoiled rich kids going at it in the eyes of the fans. You know, people that didn't deserve to have the main event spot.
Yep. And you know, even though Nakamura and AJ didn't seem to deliver at WrestleMania, and whatever reason that is, I don't know. Maybe
I'm still telling you, conspiracy or not, I feel like they were told to dial it way back because of that, you know, them not wanting to overshadow or, you know, show off comparatively to, you know, other matches, especially Brock and Roman.
It really is weird that they weren't able to do,
because they didn't deliver really on anything that we had, you know, foresaw. And we saw them, you know, just recently at the pay-per-view at Money in the Bank, and, you know, they delivered a fantastic match. Yeah, it was a last man standing, but still they really pulled out all the stops, you know, compared to what they've done beforehand.
Yeah.
But also, I mean, you can kind of throw that conspiracy out the window because the rest of their matches weren't, you know, barn burners either. They weren't fantastic. So
they're just not wrestling the style that makes them special. And that's, you know, I like the WWE style. Like, I mean, obviously, like, I like certain matches. See, when WWE's weird, when they have a match that fits their style in a way, like, but somebody hits on it, like when it feels like it's always better when they take the WWE style of things and they just kind of ramp it up a little bit. When they ramp it up a little bit and do
like
some
Rock
things.
and Austin, that them two were real like WWE style wrestlers in my eyes.
Yeah, but even them, like I honestly, though, sometimes they had a lot of hype. I think like when Rock and Austin got together, they had so much hype that it was exciting. Everything they did,
that's true too. But
they could just punch each other and it would be exciting. Whereas I don't really think they had great matches. Although I think they had
17 was really good.
Their second one, the one that got ruined, right? That's the one. Yeah. The second one was the one that got ruined, but that was their best match. But if it had ended normal, it would have been way better. And by the way, I believe I recently heard Jim Cornette say that that's what killed WWE, and I wonder. I never thought about that, but I know at the time that I did turn away for a while during that time because I was so angry because I was like,
no one wanted to hate Austin.
Yeah, nobody.
I just couldn't get myself to boo him.
It was like they had The Rock and Austin as the two top guys, and they decided that Austin was going to be the guy that goes heel now.
And then The Rock went to Hollywood shortly after, so there was this huge hole.
Yeah.
From, you know, the area that used to be just overstuffed and overflowing, and it just, you know, there was this great void that they created themselves, and it wasn't needed.
I mean,
and especially with the invasion angle coming up, and you have a heel Austin.
Yeah.
He should be the one kicking WCW and ECW's ass. And you had him be a turncoat, and it was just insulting.
It was completely opposite of his character. It made no sense. What makes no sense to me is that Vince McMahon decided to make Austin become like a coward who cries and like sucks up to Vince and plays guitar and all these things. And by the way, Stone Cold and Steve Austin, he did amazing. Like it was his acting and stuff,
entertaining,
wicked entertaining. It's like even like, but it took a long time to get over the fact that he was this completely different character. It took a while. It wasn't like with Hogan. When Hogan flipped, it was shocking and like holy shit. But like then you thought it was the coolest thing ever. Whereas with Steve Austin, it was like shocking and depressing and confusing. And then after a few months, you finally were getting entertained by him again because you could deal with it. And
it wasn't until I went back to rewatch it, you know, years back. I think when the network first released, 2013, 14 time around there.
Yeah,
that's when I appreciated his work more as a heel. But that's how long it took me to like really gravitate towards it. And then especially the fact that he soon after, I mean, it wasn't that long that he had the like Helmsley regime, where he was working with Triple H.
Yeah.
And that was even more odd because
Yeah.
Triple H, in kayfabe, is the one that took him out, with the whole Rikishi thing, and injured him by having him hit with the car, and so now you're working together. But some of the moments they had together were so entertaining, especially when they were feuding with the Undertaker and Kane. You have Austin getting thrown through the window, and I got glass in my eye. I don't deserve this. I'm the WWE champion. And he was just always entertaining.
I feel like
it's singing "Kumbaya."
It helped Triple H. It helped everybody else, is what it did. It helped everybody else because it was the first time that, like, the main guy got buried in a sense, in a way, like not buried but knocked down a peg for everybody else to stand up. But what makes me wonder is, like, why was Vince able to pull the trigger on turning Steve Austin heel when nobody wanted that to happen yet? Hulk Hogan ran for what? WrestleMania 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Hulk Hogan ran a flawless 9 years in the WWE before leaving, never turning heel in 9 years, was always the superhero. But Steve Austin ran 98, 99, 2000, and then in 2001, flipped.
Yeah.
And it made no sense because he was still Hulk Hogan at that point. He was
he was,
but yet
loved
Cena,
by everyone.
But yet Cena hasn't been flipped, and Roman hasn't been flipped. What in the fuck is wrong with Vince McMahon?
I don't know. That's the thing. He got an idea and he went with it. And Austin says to this day he still regrets it. He still wishes he didn't shake his hand and hit him in the head with a chair.
Yeah.
And he's made that abundantly clear on every media platform he could. He said it on podcasts. He said it on social media. He really wishes he could have changed his mind on the fly and just hit Vince with a chair and dealt with the repercussions later, because it was the wrong decision. And that's the thing, we had a chance with Roman for him. The ref gets knocked out at Mania. He should have grabbed that friggin' chair and beaten Paul Heyman and Brock. The crowd would have went nuts if he hit Heyman with the chair and he really drew blood and then turned on everybody. If he really turned on the crowd.
You know what also would have been good is if the next night on Raw they had a big celebration thing with him, and he'd been like, Vince, a couple of years ago, you tried to get me to blah, 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 and I told you to bow down to me, and then he shows the clip of him punching him in the balls, and then he goes, but tonight I'm gonna do the right thing, and then he literally bows down to Vince, and holds and grabs his hand, and says, Vince, I'm gonna be the best damn WWE champion, and then they go through the whole celebration. He stands back. And Stone Cold says, a lot of people have been asking, Steve Austin, why didn't you do it before? Why didn't you do what you did then? Why didn't you punch Vince McMahon in the nuts? But the fact of the matter is, this time Vince McMahon paid me a whole hell of a lot of money. The boo, and then after a little bit more working up, they hold hands up together again in the middle of the ring, and then Steve Austin just goes, and one more thing. Bow down to me, Vince, and then he punches him in the balls, anyway, and it was just a big thing to sucker Vince McMahon. And then the story the next week could have been, that Vince was going to sue Steve Austin because they had a deal.
Yeah, and he broke the contract, and Steve got all the money for Mania and the belt, and and Steve Austin then Vince could suspend him or something like that, and whatever the case, they could start the whole thing over again. And when he suspends Steve Austin, here's my idea: Stone Cold says, fine, I'm suspended, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, I told you, Vince, don't ever trust a rattlesnake, but you are, without a doubt. Now you proved it. You're the dumbest son of a bitch walking this earth. And they know The Rock is going away from movie stuff, so now he's back with Vince. And, they can just hire someone to be the lackey for Vince or whatever they got to do next to move on with Steve Austin. And even if they move away from the Vince McMahon story, they still told that funny moment. Now, it is a little weird that WrestleMania ends the way it ends, and then the next night things change. But the shock factor, we come to love that.
And the fans were cheering for Steve. They were just cheering for Steve Austin. They were in Texas. I mean, the people were freaking out for Steve. He hugged Vince McMahon, and the people cheered him still. It was the stupidest thing. They should have known then. But here, and by the way, that leads to another point. The WrestleMania crowd really is a tell. The WrestleMania crowd will tell you what you should do with the main crowd, even though they think the opposite. But also, I would have done this. Steve says he's suspended. All right, damn it, I'm suspended. I can't come. Steve Austin goes to Vince McMahon's house. That's never happened.
There we go.
Steve goes to Vince McMahon's house and destroys his stuff at his house. Like he picks up there's a cement head of whatever, and Vince is like, no, oh my God, no, that was made by Herbert Humphreys something and given to my father 30 years ago. Given to Vince K. McMahon for for becoming a millionaire. Oh, that's really sweet. Bam! He just breaks it over the fucking floor, and he pisses in Vince's pool.
Bulldozer or something.
No, he pisses in Vince's pool. That would be funny, dude. Now just taking a piss in Vince McMahon's pool, like, and he's drinking a beer, and then like a maid comes in, like, "Hi, Mr. Austin, what are you doing here? Do you have another meeting with Vince?" "Yeah, I got a meeting with Vince's pool. I urinated in it." You know, like all that stuff.
All the stupid stuff that he does. And it's so good. I would love to see him drive through the garage in like one of those mini bulldozers, you know, just like completely tear through. "Honey, I'm home." You know?
Like, yeah, see, like that would have been amazing. Like, we just came up with this. That is something that they never did. To be honest, they could do it again. They could still do it now if they wanted to. Like, if WWE's listening.
And at that time, like you said, they needed somebody for that, you know, to fill that. They still could have had Kurt Angle come in and be Vince's lackey. It would have worked perfect. They could have done everything they did with Stone Cold and Kurt, just without Stone Cold.
Yeah.
They could have had Kurt take that, you know, he was still a heel at the time. The crowd was, you know, eating it up. They could have had him still go and be built towards being a champion like they were. Yeah. Just add in Jericho, you know, just add it. Like, it would have, they could have done like another corporation.
To be honest, I honestly believed, and I'm not kidding about this. Like, and what I'm about to say, for anybody who wasn't alive back then or wasn't watching back then, or for anybody that doesn't remember, this will solidify for you how shocking it was that Stone Cold was like crying and he was a bad guy, but he was like happy and weird and hugging Vince and crying and jealous. He was like jealous of Kurt Angle being friends with Vince McMahon. It was bizarre. So like there was like a hint that Steve Austin wanted to fuck McMahon. It was weird.
It was very weird. Like,
but let me say this.
Harken back to is when he gets him the hat.
Right, the hat thing. Well, and that stuff was hilarious. That's the thing that sucks is like funny, it was hilarious.
It was so awkward too. Like if you really look on it on a deeper level, like,
it was like Star Trek, the alternate universe. Like it was like the parallel universe.
Yes.
Like we're watching great stuff, but this is really not canon. Like the canon factor is dead now. But like, so my thought was. And I legitimately thought this was going to happen. And when it never happened, I was like, what is going on? I thought we were going to find out that Steve Austin was like medicated or poisoned or something like that. Like
brainwashed.
I would have accepted that. Yeah, brainwashed or something. And I'm dead serious. Like I would have accepted that. Like Vince abducted Steve or like got somebody to hypnotize him or something.
And the Undertaker, doing all his seances and stuff, got a hold of him right before, you know, I think he was already an American Badass at 17. No?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, they could have done something with Kane or Paul Heyman, or not Paul Heyman, Paul Bearer, you know, and they could have done something.
Yeah, and, you know.
It just, you have somebody for basically 5 years, from 96 to 2001, who has essentially made your life a living hell at every turn, every single angle possible. Him and Vince had butted heads, and it's been, you know, basically God versus the devil. Like that's how big of a feud this was. And now you're willing to, you know, shake his hand for a match that he didn't really help you win. He did, but he gave you a chair. Like it wasn't like a huge victory. Like someone didn't come out there. It wasn't like Brock ran out in F5, you know, The Rock.
Yeah.
Even though he wasn't there at that point. You get my point. Like there was no huge interference. He gave you a chair. There was chairs on the outside. I'm pretty sure Austin could have had it won without his help. So it wasn't greatly needed at that point. You know, that you would have been able to still overcome the insurmountable odds that was The Rock. You beat him once before. That's the thing. So for him to be brainwashed or out of his mind, out of his gourds, medicated, poisoned, whatever you want to say, I would have believed it, because I just don't understand how you can hate someone with every fiber of your being, you know, and go to all the lengths that he did to get back at McMahon and then team up with him like nothing ever happened.
And then they could have still had the invasion thing, because then after this secondary feud that we just talked about, which is kind of like recycling the old feud, but that's what people like, and you wouldn't have turned off so many people. Now, I believe did the invasion angle did happen after 17, so I believe so.
Yeah, it worked its way into 18.
So after that, after this stuff we just talked about with like Stone Cold destroying Vince's house, they could have gone into where Vince McMahon did need Steve Austin, and Steve Austin was like, I ain't helping you worth a damn. I hope your company goes to hell, you know. And then they could have had people kind of going up to Steve and being like, Steve, I know you don't like Vince, but my job's on the line, you know, and everyone being like, my job's on the line. Steve Austin isn't going to help. He's like, I don't give a damn, you know, I'm going to the bar, you know, he just doesn't give a shit about everybody else. I only care about Steve Austin, you know what I mean? And the fans probably love him still. So then that night when Invasion's beating up WWE, Steve Austin still shows up and saves the day, you know. And they're like, oh, you know, I need the old Stone Cold instead of the I need the old Stone Cold. You know, it's just Vince McMahon. I need Stone Cold Steve Austin. I need your help. Oh yeah. So I mean, we could have written, like, a lot of people say, like, you know, how would you write the Attitude Era? You would have just loved everything, you know, because I always say that, you know, I wish that 8 million people were watching, or 6 million. Hell, I'd suck a dick for 5 million people to watch again, because we would have increased revenue and views if that happened. But
yeah,
instead,
more interest is, you know, better odds all around.
And you know, if you go back to the Attitude Era, it's like sometimes I wonder what I would have booked different, but that certainly is like where things really went wrong.
Yeah, that was a huge error. And one of the things I always said too, the way I would have booked personally the Invasion angle, I would have had Vince buy WCW, and when he started to have the idea of changing the, you know, a part of Raw to be WCW, that's when Shane would have worked it. And oh, my mother helped me, you know, I have owner's stake now because Stephanie and, you know, Linda gave me their shares, so now I have more shares than you, Dad. And he could have still owned WWE, you know, WWF, whatever you want, at that point in time. So Vince would have had WCW and could have still been the bad guy rather than Shane have the bad guy.
Yeah.
And have Shane be like the hero we, you know, needed to save the company from being taken over by Vince and his WCW, you know, because why was he buying them? He didn't want to put them out of business. He thought that's where the money was going to be. He thought his competition, you know, and he was kind of, you know, giving up on his own company. And he could have, it would have made more sense than having, you know, Shane trying to, you know, cut throat and then Stephanie owning WCW or ECW. Like, it was just odd. It felt unnatural.
Yeah, it felt like you know, they're trying to sort of, Vince was like a little bit more of a sympathetic guy, or they were kind of cooling off the Mr. McMahon thing, but they should have gone, you know.
But he was still white hot in terms of heat, and I feel like they could have really had him spearhead that, oh, I'm going to take over WCW, and now I'm going to erase WWE. You know, I'm tired of this company, and I see the future as WCW. And, you know, that's where things are going to be. And he starts bringing in their talent. And, you know, when they had the main event where, you know, Booker T, you know, defending the title, and they could have done that still, but then have Shane lead the WWE resistance to fight back, to stop his father from ruining the company. I think that, in terms of an angle, would have worked better.
Yeah, because other than
a united front versus the evil father.
Other than these really comical moments that we got, you know, it really was not good. But other than those little comical parts that we got that were funny, like, that's about it. And then I think after all that, Steve Austin started getting into the what thing, and that kind of made him, now he went from, you know, supposed to being a bad guy to being a bad guy that people liked, and then playing that serial killer like bad guy that people liked, and then he went into being some goofball cheesy crybaby, which made no sense, and then he came back into being a good guy, but in a goofy way, like, if that makes any sense, like a neutered bad guy, good guy, like with the what chance and beating up Booker T in a
grocery store.
The grocery store, which was, I would say around that time was when he was back, when it was like he's back to like,
yeah, he finally started. But at that point, unfortunately, his run was almost over,
and he was so cartoony at that point. It was like,
yeah, he was like, and I don't want to say not his former self, but like you summed it up great. He was a cartoon. He wasn't quite what he used to be. It was more like a parody.
He became like the Toys R Us version of himself, like the ATV
exactly.
to the ring. Like, that was the weird. The driving the ATV thing was, whenever I saw him on that thing, was just cheesy. Like, Stone Cold, don't drive an ATV to the ring, man.
Yeah, there was some things that just, you know, once, maybe twice, maybe for like Mania, you know, where you have the long ramp. All right, that's cool.
But if you told me, if you asked me, like, because it's hard, like, who's your favorite superstar? Like, it's hard for me to, like, because, like, I mean, it's like Hulk Hogan, Stone Cold Steve Austin, and Shawn Michaels, and Bret Hart, probably. And then, you know, Undertaker's in there too, but like in a different way. But who did you get the most excited for? Like, when someone came out, like, it's got to be Hogan, number one, because when that glass shattered and something was going on, like, that was nuts. Like, it was, there was no other. Yeah. Like, Hogan, I got fired up for, and I certainly got fired up for Shawn Michaels. But, you know, Shawn Michaels you got fired up for, but then you were really interested in the match. And Hogan, you really got fired up for, but then you were more interested in the win, like when he won then at the end.
Yeah, just seeing him get to the leg drop.
And Steve Austin was just, when that glass hits, man, that's got to be the Mecca. Like, I don't know if anything, it's going to be hard to ever top that. But
yeah,
we should
I always
probably
said
get
Stone
back.
Cold, The Rock, Undertaker. I really like Taz for a long time too, and Seth Rollins now is the man. But
Yeah. Seth is really good right now, and The Rock was good too. His
and
matches
to bring it
didn't
back to
always
top
carry it.
stars now, Brock Lesnar still having the belt. One of the things that made me laugh is hearing Curt Hawkins, on his major losing streak. Brian Pillman Jr. did a write up with Chris Featherstone on the Pancakes and Power Slam show. Wrestling Inc. reported it here, and Curt Hawkins said that, Brian Pillman Jr. said that Curt Hawkins should pin Brock Lesnar to end his streak, his losing streak.
Mm-hmm.
Brian Pillman said that the roar would be thunderous, and just the amount of pops and the amount of playoff that it could have. I was thinking, what's the most extreme answer to the question that's going to have the ultimate payoff? And I think it would be really cool. Don't pin Brock clean, but have some type of story where Brock, mistakes himself and screws up, and Curt gets the one up on him just once.
My
so you
God.
figure he's got 200-something losses, not for the title, but just to beat Brock Lesnar.
Oh no!
When he finally is out of the losing streak.
No way! You just can't do that.
I don't see how it could work. In theory, it's funny, but I don't see that ever being.
You could do
reasonable.
that. You could have that done with somebody else. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
Like even
Braun, you could possibly do.
Like honestly, that could work with like a Shinsuke. Like, I know that's weird.
Yeah,
but like,
Shinsuke would be better.
Kevin
or
Owens.
Even,
Kevin Owens would be a good one.
Yeah, Owens. Owens would be really good actually. I think Owens would work probably the best.
Yeah, that would be not bad to have Owens come out there, and then Owens gets like, rolled up or distracted or something happens.
But I appreciate what Pillman Jr. is getting after, and it's funny to think like, oh my God, 230 losses, and then he finally beats the top guy. I understand where he's going with that old school.
That is
booking,
hilarious, like to think about. But Vince just won't. I mean, Vince likes things like that too, but he won't.
Yeah, I don't see him pulling the trigger on that, and I don't see Brock agreeing to do it either. Even if it was
Brock would feel like, go piss off. I'm gonna go kill a deer now.
Yeah. Also, Oni Lorcan is reportedly set to undergo surgery. He suffered an orbital bone injury to his brutal tag team match at NXT TakeOver Chicago.
Oh, see, I didn't know it was from that match. I knew that he had the orbital bone, but I didn't know it was that match. Jesus.
Yeah, that match overdid it, so that he's going to be out for a good while now. Same thing. Sami Zayn's also been injured for quite some time. He'll be out roughly 8 months. They're saying now.
Oh my God.
So Sami Zayn had a good shoulder, as he said, that he just had operated on. So his good shoulder was operated on, and he's still got to get the bad shoulder, I guess, to have surgery on. So
it's a
mess. And as we had stated on Out of Nowhere, I had heard previously, and now a bunch of sites are taking off with it. So it's funny, I said it, and now we see it kind of gaining traction.
Yeah.
The Undertaker working SummerSlam 2018. And the article here says, oh, it's true, it's damn true, and that he might be facing Kurt Angle.
Yeah, that's...
know. But,
wait a minute, who's facing Kurt Angle? Who'd you say facing Kurt Angle?
The Undertaker is rumored possibly might face Kurt Angle, but they're saying that he's most likely to have a match at SummerSlam this year. The Undertaker will be back in action July 7th, I think it is. And he'll be at Madison Square Garden when they do that show coming up. So,
yeah,
the Undertaker will be there. He's having a match. I don't know if we know who he's facing, but he will be working that match. So,
wow.
I don't think they've advertised his opponent yet. Yeah, it's July 7th. Okay, I was right. But WWE will be at Madison Square Garden. They said for the first time in 8 years, the Undertaker returns live in action to the Garden Saturday, July 7th. So, that's coming up, another week or so, 2 weeks. And apparently he's got a few more dates before then, and then we'll also see him at that show they announced for Australia. So he's still got a few more dates this year to go through. But a lot of people are assuming and going off of, what I had said before, too, that The Undertaker is rumored to have a match they're trying to get him for SummerSlam. So we'll certainly see if that's the case. But
yeah,
I just, as much as I love The Undertaker, it's just... I don't know if it really does anything for me to see him at this point. I know you're kind of in agreement with that. His match against Rusev was serviceable. It wasn't a bad match, but it really didn't need to happen. Yeah. Now we're going to see him take on Triple H. To me, that's a pretty big error in the sense of things. I understand why they're doing it. Two of the biggest stars in the business today. The Undertaker and the Game. That's going to go quite a ways to help selling out a 100,000 seat arena in Australia. But it's just, I don't know. You have so much history that is basically being rewritten or thrown aside.
It really is a kind of a scrappy thing for what they did, you know, with that match at Hell in the Cell and Shawn Michaels being there and
being the guest referee and, you know, the end of an era. So now it's going to be the end of an era,
the rebirth of the end of the era. Yeah, the for real this time, the end of the era. So yeah, I'm not really a big fan of that, but you know, I get, but you know, I'm not a fan of it happening. I can't say I wouldn't do it, because if I was under the pressure of having to book this place and you could do it, you know, what are you going to do and say no? You know, so I get what, I don't necessarily disagree with it, but it is, as a pure fan, I'm not happy about it, but but you know, taking into account everything and what's best for business is, yeah, do it, you know, whatever. Yeah. If you can do it, do it. Now we got tonight on Raw. I don't know. It's probably gonna be horrible. SmackDown, there's been a match announced.
Be good. SmackDown, we got Liz let us know before that Paige had tweeted out that she said, it's my responsibility to make matches that you want to see. I'm making it official. Jeff Hardy will defend the U.S. title against Shinsuke Nakamura this Tuesday on SmackDown Live.
Now, even that, like, I don't know.
So we're going to get a U.S. title match.
I know that match has been happening for days now, but Raw, I don't really remember what's happening.
I think we might be getting a rematch for the IC title between Dolph and Seth.
We don't know. We don't know. That's like, even SmackDown's already winning with, and it's not even that big deal, but SmackDown's already winning by the idea that they've laid out that there's a title match, and on Raw, I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, I really am not sure either. I think that's going to be, you know, one of the key things for tonight, but we're also supposed to see, you know, if Kevin Owens finds a new partner for his tag team, and then the WWE.com was talking about, you know, there's going to be a follow-up between Bayley and Sasha, which at this point, who gives a shit? They've ruined that angle.
They just need to have like the only way to save them is for them to have like a bloodied hardcore match. Like, I'm not kidding.
Yeah, they really need to go and tear each other apart.
Yeah, that's the only way that it happens. And now, another thing is, and also, first of all, real quick, I want to just take a quick second to say, if you guys are going to be buying tickets to an upcoming WWE event or a concert or whatever, check out SeatGeek. The link is in the description box down below, or it's pinned to my comment section at the top. Probably pinned in the comment section. There's a link there for you, a special link. You can go to SeatGeek and get your tickets. If you use my link down below, we'll get credit for that purchase. So if you're going to WWE house show or Raw, SmackDown, whatever, use the go to SeatGeek. They've got a lot of tickets on sale and stuff like that, and some stuff that you may not be able to find on other websites. So use that link down below, and you'll be able to get tickets, and you'll help us out as well. There's a rumor of a stipulation for Shinsuke and Jeff Hardy coming up at Extreme Rules. I personally want to see a ladder match, maybe a TLC match, but I would just love a ladder match. What do you think about that?
Yeah, that works best. I mean, obviously, Hardys and ladders are iconic together. And Nakamura, we've seen him, you know, I picture him doing well with Jeff in a ladder match, so.
Yeah, I would love to see them. They could actually they have a chance to do better than AJ and Shinsuke did if they use a ladder. I would love to see what they could do with a ladder. Like, go out there and be like, let's do everything we can think of with this ladder. An old school type ladder match. And I think that'd be great. It would be better than, it could possibly be one of the better ladder matches ever seen because of the creativity with the two guys and the ladders and what they could do. And I would be, if it fell into a top 5, top 10 even, I'd take a top 10 ladder match of all time behind, like, you know, TLC matches and, you know, Shawn Michaels, Razor. You know, I would love it if it was in that category somehow. Like, that could really be awesome. So I'm cheering for a ladder match at Extreme Rules with Jeff and Shinsuke Nakamura.
Yeah, I think that would be fantastic.
And I think possibly they do put the belt on Shinsuke because he lost so much with AJ and tried so hard with him. And at this point, like, he's sort of becoming he's in danger of Bray Wyatt mode where he's always a threat and always kind of an ass and a nuisance. He almost, in a way, doesn't need a title. I can't believe I'm saying that, but in a way, Shinsuke Nakamura almost doesn't need a title because his character is such a dink right now, and it's entertaining, but he's a nuisance for the good guy.
Yeah.
And Kevin Owens can be like this too, but I feel like Kevin Owens like always wins a belt. He really does. He at least recently he hasn't, but Shinsuke might be in Bray Wyatt.
Yeah, he has.
But I really think that maybe Shinsuke will win the belt because they feel like, hey, let's make him. We gotta put him as legitimate at this point because he hasn't won
anything really. He's lost so many matches and so many high caliber matches.
Yeah, and if he could have a really good match with Jeff Hardy and then win that belt, it would be a really good match. I could see Jeff winning it still, and their feud continuing because they can get a lot of mileage out of Shinsuke. We saw that with AJ. They could really repeat that now with Jeff and him, leading to SummerSlam or something.
Especially if the title does change hands. Then that would give it even more longevity because then you have rematches going forward.
Yes, right. And so what's the pay-per-view after Extreme Rules? Is that SummerSlam?
That's SummerSlam.
So there you go. Yeah, I mean, Shinsuke wins it. Jeff tries to win it back.
And that gives us a solid 5 weeks to build the SummerSlam, which needs it.
Yeah, that would really be good.
Yeah, and there is Rollins will look to win back the IC Championship tonight, but there's a bright side even in defeat. If Rollins loses tonight, Kurt Angle will definitely put Rollins in his #1 contenders match in Extreme Rules. So if Rollins loses tonight, then he gets to be in the #1 contenders match for the Universal Championship.
All right, that's pretty cool. And
so
by the way,
if he loses the IC match, at least he could still possibly face Brock at SummerSlam.
Imagine that, because
that's what I originally had said. That's the only way I pictured him losing the belt to Elias at Money in the Bank. Excuse me. I said Elias will win because then they'll have the rematch at Extreme Rules, and Elias will retain, and then Seth will go on to face Brock at SummerSlam. That would be fantastic. Elias could do it through nefarious means. He can cheat, but obviously Seth can lose but still look strong in defeat. It would be a great setup and a great build for him to go and reclaim the belt. And I just think it would be an amazing match between those two. And he was voted #1 by the fans too. He had like 39% of the vote for who they'd want to see face Brock Lesnar. So obviously we're not alone here in saying that it's something everybody wants to see.
That would be surprising to me, but that could certainly happen. And just putting him in the match, even if he lost, would be pretty big news for Seth.
Yeah, and if anybody could dethrone Brock at this point, I certainly envision Seth to be the man to do so. At least that makes the most sense on paper to me.
I want to plug it real quick. Me and Jake did a random podcast, kind of like we talked about some weird stuff, non-wrestling stuff earlier. That is on Patreon, patreon.com/Joe Cronin Show. Also, the audio from last night's gaming podcast, the free-to-play episode 1. We did one last week with Jake where we kind of talked about PUBG and stuff, and that will be our PUBG podcast, but that's up as well. And the gaming podcast is up in audio form, so there's a whole bunch of stuff up on patreon.com/Joe Cronin Show. You can go to the app, go to the website, whichever one you're on, and you can play it from the app or download the content right to your phone or computer. If you're on your computer,
you get to do it with the skinnier version of Jake, a.k.a. Troy, as he had said.
Yeah, Troy's there. Yeah, Jake missed it. I knew he was asleep. I was like, oh, man, it's too bad he's not here. I think that's... I really get it. We're pressed for time at this point. We really could do another half an hour on all kinds of wrestling news, but kind of pressed for time. We're going to see what happens tonight on Raw. We're going to be live after Raw is over.
Yeah, we also have the UK tournament going on, I think like in half an hour as well.
Is that that's the thing that was taped, right? Oh, no, it wasn't taped. It's live.
This is live today.
Yeah, that's right. I forgot all about it. I thought it was on it. Shit, I forgot all about it. Is it on the network?
Yes, it is. It's going to be live on the network, I believe, in a half an hour or an hour.
Oh, my God.
It comes up soon. So that's the tournament, and then tomorrow is part 2 of it.
So if you're listening to this right now, it's already happening or already over. So, I will give my review on that on Patreon if I can get to watch it today. I will give that review on Patreon. I'm going to have ROH coverage coming to Patreon. I'm going to have NXT coverage coming to Patreon, and that as well here on Patreon. So make sure you're a $5 patron to get everything almost. $10 gets absolutely everything. In fact, I think I put that random podcast we did up earlier for the $10 patrons while because we hadn't give content for them for 2 weeks. We were supposed to have a couple shows and we didn't have them yet. But I've got one with Jesse coming this week too. So like Wednesday or Thursday will be up. So there's so much content up there. But what else did I want to say? I think that's about it right now for, again, what we can cover.
Yeah, the only thing I wanted to bring up really quick before we get out of here was
Yeah.
I thought it was really odd that, you know, oh, she had to fulfill contractual obligations, but you had Sasha, Dana, Bailey, and Ronda Rousey this weekend in Anaheim, California at a house show, taking on the Riot Squad and Alexa Bliss. So it was an 8-woman tag team match, and it's the only match they had that evening. But the fact that she's suspended, so she's not suspended from house shows, just Raw, you know, and like it just, you know, it's so insulting.
That is so stupid. Well, yeah, that is weird. I mean, they could have said, like, well, I still expect you to work some events, you know, where you're not going to make as much money, but as far as Raw, you don't be here. But yeah, they don't care about that. They figure nobody's going to care. You know what I mean? Like, and to be honest, they might be right. I mean, you know, because we're complaining about kayfabe and stuff, but to them, it's like, what is there probably, what do you think? Like, 5% of the entire WWE audience realizes that?
Yeah, so around that.
I get their point. I mean, I'm not happy. I would be more, if I was them, I'd be more thorough, but I just wouldn't
publicize it as much as they did. I mean, they posted it front page and on Twitter.
Okay, well, wait a minute. That's different. Okay, so if they're like social media posting it, that's stupid.
Yeah, they put it, oh, she had to fulfill contractual obligations, and it's their big tweet. Ronda Rousey's at Anaheim, you know, and
oh my god,
this is the show where the rope broke for between the
oh my god,
Rollins and McIntyre match.
There's no, see, that's just stupid.
Yeah, it was their main tweet. It was even, you know, like, you know, their pinned tweet for a while was, oh, Ronda Rousey is in Anaheim in competition due to contractual obligations. That's the stuff that you know, gets me riled up. Just don't acknowledge it.
Yeah, don't certainly don't tweet that out. Like that's so different. I thought we just yeah, I just think that's ridiculous.
Yeah. That's for certain, but yeah, with the UK tournament should be exciting. You know, I'm curious to see who goes ahead and, you know, claims that #1 contender spot, and then we'll see the title match tomorrow. So definitely a lot to look out for. And then, like you said, we have Raw tonight. We got an IC title match, and hopefully they pack in a little bit more to make it more interesting. But we'll see what happens.
Well, we're going to get out of here, guys. Thank you for listening to State of the WWE episode 106. I'll try to do these again more often. This has been probably the longest running titled thing I've had on this channel, other than, you know, monetize this. But it precedes all of that stuff. The first, I made a State of the WWE back in, I want to say 2011 or 12, or no, 2000. Oh, Jesus, whack my face off my mic. I don't know, like 2013 or 2012 was the first one. So I definitely want to do more of these. We should be up to like episode 400 by now, but so we'll try to do more of these. I'll see you tonight for Raw review here on the Joe Cronin Show. We'll have the SmackDown review tomorrow night. Wednesday night we'll have Out of Nowhere. Thursday night Throwdown. We'll be back on Corrupted, and then Monetize This will actually be back over on Corrupted channel as well. And stay tuned for more of our gaming podcasts and things like that have been worked out really well. Thanks for listening. Thanks to Jake DeMarco at Countdown Ended on Twitter. And you guys have a good day. We'll see you tonight.